Welcome to LiveDaf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem, welcome back to today's Daf Hayomi Maseches TEMURAH Daf Yudalad. We begin a brand new Perak Sheni. We're going to begin with a Mishnah. The Mishnah will present an equation, a comparative equation, comparing personal karbanis to public karbanis. Our karban yachad versus karban tzibur. Says the Mishnah, Yesh, we have some elements that are to be found only in private offerings, b'karbanis yachad, which are not found in a karban tzibur, she'en b'karbanis hatzibur. And the same vice versa. V'yesh b'karbanis hatzibur, we have some elements present only in public karbanis that are unfound in personal karbanis, she'en b'karbanis hayachad. Here goes. What do we find by a karban yachad? She'karbanis hayachad, well, oisin TEMURAH. You can generate a TEMURAH with your own karban, but not with a public karban, ve'ein karbanis hatzibur. However, public national karbanis, they cannot generate oisin TEMURAH. Furthermore, karbanis hayachid, a personal karban, can come from any gender. Noihaga is being b'scharim, nekeva can come whether zachar or nekeva. Right? So you can have an animal from either gender. The karbanis hatzibur, as opposed to karbanis hatzibur, are limited only to male animals. Ein noihagan el b'scharim. One more item, karbanis hayachid. You have some personal karbanis which are, time related. For instance, if they're coming on account of an experience, an event, a woman giving birth, a mitzvah at the end of his period of purification. So suppose he misses that opportunity. Karbanos hayachad chayav machar yusam. He must make it up a day later, a week later. It doesn't get expired. Ubachrayis neskeim, and likewise, the nesachim, the wine that comes along with the karbanis. But when it comes to a public karban, which is time related, we have a saying, Avar zmanoi, batal karbanoi. Time is up, the karban is up. Right? Let's say it's a karban for Yom Tov. You can bring it during Yom Tov, but if you miss Yom Tov, it's over. Karbanis hatzibur ein chayav nachar yusam. Not obligated to make it up, it's over, it's expired. V'loi nor b'achrayis neskein, nor are you accountable for the nesach. Avol, however, there's an exception to the rule. Chayav b'achrayis neskein. At times, you have to make up for the nesachim mishakarav hazebach. Rashi explains, suppose the karban was brought on that Yom Tov. Just, they didn't have access to nesachim. In that case, you must shore up, you have to make up for the nesachim even a week later, even 10 days later. Which is basically part B of that karban that had been executed on time. Okay, so we have three elements by karban yachid over karban tzibur. Karban yachid makes TEMURAH, zachar nekeva, and the makeup period. Now, v'yesh b'karbanis hatzibur ma she'en b'karbanis hayachid. You find some things by tzibur not found by yachid. She'karbanis hatzibur deichnas haShabbos esatuma. At times, the karbanis hatzibur will override the Shabbos concern. You'll do the shchita, malach, even on Shabbos, and likewise, if the kayhanim, if everybody's tameh, you bring it anyways. That's unique to karban tzibur. But for karbanos yachad, private karbanos, do not have that overriding ability. Einan doichos is Shabbos. You don't bring it on Shabbos. Is tumah, nor do you negate the tumah factor. Amar meir. You're depending upon whether it's yachad or tzibur. So any private karban, any personal offering is not doicha Shabbos and tumah. Here's an example. Otherwise, Amar meir alei chavite kain gadol. The daily, mincha offering of the kain gadol uparshi Kippurim, and the karban that the kain gadol brings in Yom Kippur. Technically, these are private karbanos, which he pays for. Karbanos hayachad hein, but still, the doichnas haShabbos is tumah. We have psukim that these things will be brought even on Shabbos and override the tumah. Ella, rather, the criterion is not yachid versus tzibur. Ella shezman kavua. It's all about whether it's time related. So typically a korban yachid is not time related. But here it is. It must be brought every day, must be brought in Yom Kippur. In that case, it's Deicha Shabbos and Tumah. And on the flip side too, typically a korban tzibur is time related, and therefore Deicha Shabbos and Tumah. But if you have a case of a korban tzibur which is not time related, Rashi brings an example. Kigon parhelim davar shel tzibur, on account of a sin that they sinned, usira v'dezara, they worshipped an idol. These are public karbanos, but not time related. Wait till Sunday to bring those karbanos. So in a nutshell, we have three elements found by korban yachid: Temurah, Zachar Nekeva, Chai B'Achrayis. We have one element by korban tzibur, or as Rameh puts it, time-related karbanos, which are Deicha Shabbos and Tumah. Continues the Gemara. Korban yachid oiseh Temurah, which implies that every korban yachid can make a Temurah. But Klalu, is that an absolute rule? Very oifos. What about bird karbanos? The korban yachid is a private korban, but we already learned yesterday that it doesn't make a Temurah. Only Behema does. Ve'ein oiseh Temurah. How could you say every korban yachid makes a Temurah? The answer is, we're speaking about animal karbanos. You're right. Kiktani behema katani. The Mishnah were referring to animal karbanos, and in that sense, every korban yachid makes a Temurah. Really? Very vlad. What about the vlad, the offspring of a private korban? The korban yachidu. So the vlad is also suitable for hakrava. It's a korban yachid, and still it cannot generate a Temurah. Ve'ein oiseh Temurah. Well, Hamani Rabbi Yudi, the Mishnah follows Rabbi Yudi, who says it does. The Amar Avlad oiseh Temurah. A vlad of a korban can make a Temurah as well. Fine. Very Temurah atzma. Here's a kasha. Every korban yachid makes a Temurah. What if you had a korban and you offered a substitute? You made a Temurah. Now you have that Temurah standing in front of you. Can you use that Temurah as a source for another Temurah? Can that Temurah generate another one? Very Temurah atzma, the korban yachidi, technically it's a private korban. Ve'ein oiseh Temurah. Ve'ein Temurah oiseh Temurah. We know that a Temurah cannot make another one. Apparently, the rule is not absolute. Well, no. Kiktani bikar zivchaktani. The Mishnah was talking about the primary korban. Every primary korban yachid can make a Temurah. Not a Temurah which is already a copy. Okay, hashdas lachi. Now that you've discovered this new twist, the Mishnah is addressing primary. So let's go back to that question. What about the vlad? The vlad can't make a Temurah. Yeah, let's say it can't. That's not a kasha. It doesn't contradict the rule. I feel Rabban, even going like the Rabban that a vlad can't make a Temurah, doesn't contravene the rule, because the Mishnah is addressing primary. This rule relates to primary karbanos. Every korban yachid of primary status can make a Temurah, as opposed to a Temurah of that, as opposed to the vlad of that. We're not talking about those. Korbanos hayachid neihagois bein b'scharim bein minakevos. A private korban can be brought either zachar or nekeva klalahu. Is that an absolute rule? Here's a string of cases of karbanos that are gender specific, even by korban yachid. Very oila. Korban yachid. Oila is a korban yachid with zachar asya, nekeva liasya can only brought as zachar and nekeva. Well, you have some variation of an oila that can come nekeva, a bird oila, where gender is not. It's not gender specific. We have a type of oila that can be in a cave as well. Oilas ha'oif, the son, you have a brisa. Tamus, the unblemished requirement, v'zachrus, and the gender, the male requirement, b'behema, is specific to animal oilos. Tamas v'zachrus b'oifos, but by birds, it doesn't have to have these requirements. Ask the Gemara about chatos. The korban yachidi. What about a chatos? A private chatos. The korban yachidi. Unakeva asya zachali asa. It can only be as an akeva, not a zachar. Hayikasar nasi. The ma'aseh zachar. There was one case of a chatos yachid. That's the korban that a nasi, the king, will bring when he sins, which is a sar, a male goat. So you have chatos, even the male, in the male realm. Hayikasham yachid. What about an asham that a yachid brings? Once again, that's limited to zachar. The zachar asi, it only comes as zachar, not as an akeva liasi. He writes as the Gemara. The Mishnah is comparing With respect to a type of carbon that's applicable to Yachid and Tzibur, so in a carbon that applies in both sides of the equation, on that we say the Yachid is unlimited, Zachar and Nekeva, as opposed to the Tzibur, which is limited. Kika Amri Rabbanan, when the Rabbanan set up this formula and said that a carbon Yachid can come either way, carbon Tzibur is limited, that's regarding a carbon that both can bring, carbon the Shavi Ben B'Yachid Ben Tzibur. So with respect to a carbon that applies to Yachid and Tzibur, to make that contrast, the Yachid comes Zachar and Nekeva, not the Tzibur. But a Asham that you just cited as an example, that's inherently specific to a Yachid. So that's not part of our equation. It's not part of our, comparative equation. Asham, as opposed to an Asham, B'Yachid Isay, it's only found by a Yachid. But Tzibur, let's say, there's no Asham by Tzibur. So it's not part of our comparative equation. Another answer to the question is, you're right, you found, an example, Miktani kol karbanos. Did the Mishnah then say it's an absolute, universal rule that all private karbanos can be Zachar and Nekeva? No, yesh karbanos katani. Some amongst the karbanos. Umayni, what are we talking about? A shlamim. So a shlamim is a good example because if it's a carbon yachid, be by Nekeva maisi, be by Zachar maisi. You can choose a Nekeva or Zachar. But a tzibur that brings a shlamim, Rashi says, which is on Shavuos, it's only going to be a Zachar. So in contrast to the private carbon, well, you always have to make up for that missing carbon, even if it's past the date. By a tzibur, the carbon of Yantiv is for today and today only. How do we know this to be so? The Tanur Rabbanan. So these are the karbanis there of the Yom Tovim. Rashi says the Musafim or the Mayadim. Dvar Yaim, B'Yaim. Today's karbanis, today only. Malamed we learn Shekal Hayim Kashel Musafim. You can bring your Musaf the entire day. B'Yaim tells us today only. Malamed Shem Avra Yaim B'Leivin. It comes to teach us that if the day is past and they haven't brought it, Einoi Chai V'Char Yusan, they're no longer responsible. Yochel Lo Yeh Chayev. Now, suppose they did bring it today, but they failed to bring the Nesachim. Are they still accountable for that? We have another pasuk in Chasim and Askeim, which teaches us that even Balayla, even the following night, even past the day, we learn Chasim and Askeim means Lamach, even tomorrow or a week later. Okay, so in conclusion, a personal carbon has to be brought whenever, but a carbon tzibur meant for that day is that day only. However, if it was brought that day, the menachos and nesachim can certainly and have certainly to be brought later. Rish Lakish says, I'll bring you a different source that the nesachim of a carbon tzibur must be brought even at a later date. So Rish Lakish says, look at the pasuk again by the Mayadim there, where it says like this. So after the pasuk of Arab Yaimai, pasuk there says Malvad Shapsas Hashem. And Rashi explains what this pasuk means to say is, fine, it's Yom Tov after Shabbos, and you bring in today's Yom Tovim Malvad aside, in addition to the elements that were not brought yesterday on Shabbos. Suppose they overlooked to bring the Nesachim. You bring it today to make up for that. Mavad Shabbos Hashem. We learn from here that the yesterday's Nesachim, for yesterday's Karbonis, that were not brought, will be brought today. Now, why do we need two psukim for the same point? The pasuk of Nechasav and Askeyam to tell you that the menachos will be brought at a later date, if necessary, and the pasuk of Bad Shabbos Hashem, which likewise teaches us the same thing. Both are needed. Each one teaches us a different element. The Kasser Rachman of Bad Shabbos Hashem, if only from this last pasuk, Avamin I would say Be'yomin. Okay, yesterday's missed Nesachim, you bring today by day, but not at night. So it's it's part of the regular daytime routine. Amma Akro Mechasim Neskeim. Comes the pasuk and says, Mechasim Neskeim, to tell us that basically it's unlimited. You could bring it during daytime, during nighttime. Because Rachon Mechasim Neskeim. Now, if the Torah would only say it that way, without the second pasuk, I mean, I would say, maybe the pasuk is telling us, sure, bring it the following night. So the night after Yontiv, that's your makeup time, and it's over. Once that time passes, your opportunity is lost. You can't bring it the next day. Therefore, we need a pasuk Malvat Shavsas Hashem, which relates to the service on the following day. That even the following day can be used to make up for the previous day's Nesachim. Now, why would I even think so? Why would I even think that Nesachim is limited to the night after the day of the Hakrava, and not past that point? Well, why would I say that? Because we have to find an interesting phenomenon. In contrast to the general perception, the general rule in halacha that in Yiddishkeit the day follows the night, so it's night which leads up to the day. By Kabbanis, it's the other way. The day leads into the following night. So this night follows and relates to yesterday. The carbon of yesterday is eaten throughout the next night. So it's a reverse kind of configuration. So perhaps when it comes to making up for the missing nesachim of yesterday, you have until tonight, until the next morning. That's it. It's richi. Hence we need both psukim to tell you can bring it at night, you can bring it the next day, whenever you have it. Ask the Gemara, how could you even contemplate bringing nesachim at night? Nesachim appears to be a daytime item. When nesachim, you cover about laila, how could you bring nesachim at night? Vatnan, or vatani, of a brisa, which lists daytime karbanes and nighttime karbanes. And guess what? Nesachim was listed amongst the daytime karbanes, vatanya. So this brisa relates to the pasuk, the beginning of Parshas Vayikra, in Parshat Tzav. It speaks about Zois Torah Sa'oila, Hi Ha'oila Al Moita Al Mizbeach Al Alayla, Ad HaBoiker, referring to the Eivarim and the Pedarim, the fast, the limbs of the karbanes, which are actually offered on the Mizbeach throughout the night. You can do that at night if you want. So technically these are, nighttime karbanes. What about other items? Ainli El Dvarim Shadarkon the Karbalayla. So perhaps, this pasuk only applies to items which are meant to be offered at night, also at night. Kigoin Ivarim, Updorim, Shemakrivin, Bayashemesh. So these elements of karbanos can be offered on the Mizbeach, Mi Bayashemesh, even after sunset, Umas Aklin, Bahilchan Kalalayla, Kuloi, and they're burnt and consumed throughout the night. Not a problem. What about other items? Dvarim Shadarkon Karbayim, items which are meant to be offered by day. So here goes a list of daytime karbanis. Kigoin, for instance, hakometz. So the scooping out of the mincha, halavaina, the incense, or minchas, nisachim, the mincha, the mincha that comes along with a karban, shemalon bayashemesh. So how do we know that these items as well can be offered mi bayashemesh, post sunset? Oh, what do you mean? You just told me they were daytime items, daytime materials, daytime karbanis. How could you refer to post sunset? Mi bayashemesh sakadata. How could you even consider offering after sunset? V'armas, you just told me a minute ago, dvarim shadarkon karbayim. These are meant to be daytime karbanis. Ninu. Ella, rather, we'll revise what we said. Ella im bayashemesh. How do we know that you're allowed to offer them up on the mizbeach very close to sunset, knowing that they're going to have to be consumed throughout the night? How do we know that's okay? It's an expansive term, riba, coming to include all these as well. So as long as they're up on the mizbeach prior to nightfall, they're good to go. In any case, what pertains to us is, let's take a closer look at that list of daytime karbanik, tonimiyah. What do we find in that list? Nesachim. Nesachim b'yoyim. Nesachim meant to be daytime offerings only. How is that consistent with the previous discussion? Menachasim neskeim b'layla. Menachos nesachim are okay at night. which sounds like you could offer that night as well. Amar Rami Bar Chama. Here's your answer. Like kasha, kan li kadesh, kan li karif. Regarding hakrava, you're right, daytime only. But li kadesh, to put into klisharis, to sanctify it, that could be done even at night. But of course you have to wait until morning to put it on the Mizbeach. Amalei Rav, how does that work? How is that consistent? Let's think. The idea of a klisharis, the ability of a klisharis to be mekadesh, its content, is based on the fact that a klisharis is in service of the Mizbeach. It's en route to the Mizbeach. Well, if it's not time for akrava of this particular element, how could the klisharis sanctify it? Amalei Rav, doesn't it go hand in hand? Imigdash kachi, kruvei, nami mekarbi. If according to you, a klisharis could be mekadesh this material at night, assumingly because it's time for akrava, so then be makrabit at night as well. You can't have kiddush without akrava. It's one phase leading into the next. By the time we have a brisa, then in fact it is so. Kedusha and akrava go hand in hand. Here's the rule: kol akara b'yom, material which is meant to be offered by day, and kaddish b'yom. So the klisharis likewise will only affect it and be mekadesh by day. Let's think of it, because the klisharis is serving hakrava. Kol akara b'layla, something which is meant to be offered at night. Kaddish b'layla, likewise, kedusha takes place at night. Bein b'yom uvein b'layla, something which can be offered either way. Then the kedusha can go either way. Kaddish b'yom b'layla. So we have a big kasha. On the one hand, we're saying that nesachim are daytime items, and then we say menachasa menaskein b'layla, indicating that it's okay at night. Elam Rav Yosef. You're right. Sami. Let's delete menachas nesachim mihamasnisa. We'll take it off this list of daytime materials, because in fact it's not. It's even a nighttime hakrav. So that's how we left it. Okay, so Rav Dimi. Later on, when Rav Dimi traveled up to Eretz Yisrael, he came up with a wonderful solution to this dilemma. There are two types of nesachim. We have a contradiction. You're right. Two types. Each one with its own parameter. So what happened was Ashkei encountered Rav Yirmiyah, who was sitting and saying over an interesting halach. The Yosef Amar, he's quoting Mishmei B'Shem Alevi. Menayin nesachim haboyim mazavach. Shein kraven ela b'yom. How do we know that nesachim that are actually accompanying a carbon? So they're there with the carbon as the carbon is being shechted, and that sort of binds them with the carbon. In this case, they share the same rule, the same time frame, the same fate, so to speak, as the carbon. It's one package. Shein kraven ela b'yom. In that case, you can only bring the nesachim by daytime as well, just like as the carbon. The pasuk here pairs up the ishlamim, which is the carbon, with the nesachim that are coming along with it, to teach us just as the shlamim is limited to daytime, likewise the nesachim that are part of its package. So now Rav Dimi was introduced to this new idea, and it hit him like a bolt. He says, wow, now I realize that in fact there are two types of nesachim. There are ones that are with the carbon, in which case they have the same halachos on the same track as the carbon. And then you have nesachim that were introduced later. Let's say he had no access to nesachim at the time of the akrav, and he only brought it later. In that case, it's not bound to the same time frame as the carbon. So that's a wonderful solution to our dilemma. We had a contradiction. Here it says nesachim are good at night. Here it says it's only by day. It depends. Which ones? Amar. So now he says, Rashi learns, if I find a person that will be willing to take my post to back to Babel, to Rav Yosef, I would send him a message. I would quickly write a letter. I would get a letter, write up a letter. Shalchel Rav Yosef. I'll go quickly send a postcard to Rav Yosef. Wonderful solution to the problem. Don't delete anything. Don't erase anything. Return Talmud Bavli. No, Deloy Tismi, Minchas Nesachim Asnis. There's no need to delete the words Minchas Nesachim from that list of daytime karbonos. It all depends what type of Nesachim. Some are daytime, some are not. Like, gosh, here's their answer. Kan, the Minchas Nesachim that was mentioned amongst the daytime karbonos, B'Nesachim Haboin Mazevach. That's speaking whether coming together with a carbon. Kan, but the other brayso, which speaks about Nesachim as even nighttime offerings, B'Nesachim Haboin B'Fnei Atzma. That's speaking that it came on its own. So you shechted the carbon without Nesachim, then you offer the Nesachim, then you're free to do it at night. So that's a perfect solution to our issue. Now the Gemara is going to dwell on a side point. How is he offering to send a letter? He's not meant to write down. At that time in history, they would not write down. The oral Torah was meant to be conveyed mipel oizen, from mouth to ear, in person. If you would have had the ability to send a letter, how could he do that? How could he send it? Those who put the halachas in writing, that's terrible. Because it's like he's burning the Torah. They're meant to be burnt. And if one learns from those writings, he's not going to get rewarded for it. In fact, V'dorash, Rabbi Bar Nachmani, why is it so severe? Because this Amoira, this Chacham, Meturgumani, was actually the assistant, the announcer of the Rish Lakish, apparently a Talmud Chacham in his own right. He says, look, we seem to have a contradiction in the Pesukim regarding recording the Torah. One pasuk it says, Hashem is instructing Moshe Rabbeinu, record it. Write down all these words. We have another pasuk which seems to say, don't write it. Alpi means mouth, verbal. It's meant to be conveyed in person, from the Rebbe to the Talmud. So how do you work this out? It's coming to teach us like this. Dvarim she'al peh, yatara she'lo amar leimer b'chsav. The Torah she'al peh, so the oral Torah that Hashem conveyed to Moshe by heart, it's meant to remain that way. So that the Rebbe explains it, ensures that the Talmud understands it properly, with all its depth and intricacy. Not meant to record it and learn it from the writings. The Ritva explains, because when it's Baal Peh, a person, conveys it bediktuk with all the deep, with the depth and the understanding and the intricacy and all that. You convey it better when it's verbal. Make sure that, so it's meant to stay that way. And likewise, the words that Hashem gave to Moshe in writing is meant to stay in writing. Not meant to be learned Baal Peh. Tosfos asks, how do we, we daven every day, the Mizmorim, how do we allow ourselves to say it Baal Peh? So he says, Ein lahakpid rak mashakasa b'chumash. It only applies to the chumash, but not to the rest, the Nevi'im Ksuvim. Interesting. We're talking to Rabbi Shmuel, and furthermore, we have a brayso from Rabbi Shmuel. So, according to him, he agrees, but he says it's all from the same pasuk. Both concepts, to yes, right, Torah sheb'chsav, and not Torah sheb'al peh, is all from the same exact part of the pasuk. We don't need two parts of the pasuk for that, because k'sev l'cha sadvarim ha'ela, do write these words, imply these words, yes, but not the other words. Ela atakoisav, you'll write these words. As I had given it to you, b'chsav, you continue doing so. Aval eina atakoisav halachos, but other words, halachos, which are meant to be conveyed verbally, is not meant to be recorded. So back to the question, how would he allow himself to write that halacha of the nesachim, the answer that he had, 2 types of nesachim in writing? Amri, the answer was given like this. Here's an exception. Because apparently it wasn't something that they knew about. You see that with the leading the brisa was something that they got stuck on, so something new, he was introducing a new distinction, a new concept. Splitting hairs, this type of nesachim, that. So in order for it to be retained and remembered, he felt that it was important to have it recorded, lest it be forgotten. Amri, the answer was given to Ummah. Perhaps Mosa Chanta, something new that he's introducing, which hadn't been heard before. Shani, that's different, that has to be recorded for posterity. Adhar B'Yechnan, Rish Lakish, we find that these 2 Chachamim, they also allowed themselves an exception. Ma'ini, B'Sifra, Tagada B'Shabbat. On Shabbos they would study in the scrolls of the Agados. Apparently they weren't so, disseminated and known. So it had to be recorded. V'dar Shiachi, and was based on the following drasha of the pasuk: Eis lasis lashem if teresecha. So they sort of justified it and explained it by the pasuk of Eis lashem. Sometimes it's a time that you have to do for Hashem in a time of need to ensure a Torah will be retained and not forgotten. If teresecha, you have to do something which appears to be sort of negating the Torah or a certain element of the Torah. Typically not meant to have it recorded, but it's more important to have the Torah not forgotten. Amri, they explained, Mutab ti'akaru Torah. It's better to override an element of the Torah, to sort of transgress this issur of recording the Torah, so that it be retained, right? To ensure a Torah will never be forgotten. And in fact, that's why we have the Torah written today. Rashi Maseches Gittin explains, because the levavos, when the smite, our retention abilities were diminished, and it's just not it's not going to be practical for us to remember everything, and eventually it will be forgotten. So better record than forget. Continues the Gemara. Amar Papa. Oh, now that we have this wonderful revelation, Hashda Amris, now that you told us, Nesachim haboim lifnei atzmim, craven afilu balayla, that nesachim that are offered separate from a carbon can be offered even at night. Nizdamnu nesachim balayla, magdishim balayla, makrivim. So if you have nesachim at night, so you discovered nesachim at night, go ahead, put it into klisharis and offer it at night. So you can be magdish it and makriv it in the same night. So the chiddush here is that even not only if you magdish it by day, can you bring it at night. You can even start and end the process in the same night. Magdish and makriv together. I have a proof from a brisa that supports you. Tanya, the Meseilach, Zaklal, we have this rule that we discussed before, that Kedusha, the sanctification in advance of the Akrova and the Akrova, go hand in hand. Zaklal, Kol Akara B'Yayim, Eni Kodesh Elo B'Yayim. Something which is strictly a daytime offering can only become Kodesh by day, in preparation for that Akrova. B'Chol Akara B'Layla, Kodesh B'Layla. Something which can be brought at night has a kedusha at night. So clearly, nesachim can have kedusha and akrava at night. Amar Rav Ada bar Ava, but you should know that if you choose to do it at night, you have a very short expiry time until daybreak. Don't think you get an extension because it's already at night. No, until the next morning. That's it. Just like daybreak will invalidate the limbs of the carbon, of yesterday's carbon, which can be brought throughout the following night, but that's it. Come morning, it's over. Likewise, in a nesachim, which he chose to sanctify throughout the night, that's it. Once morning comes, it's a brand new experience, a brand new sort of time frame, and anything up until that point becomes expired. Continues the Gemara. Kiyasar Rav Dimi, when Rav Dimi arrived, Amar B'Yechon, he quoted From Rabbi Yochanan, Mishum, in the name of Rabbi Shimon ben Yotzadak. We have a pasuk which reads like this: Eile tas l'Hashem adeichem. So these karbanos you're meant to be offering during the Yom Tovim, the actual Yom Tov itself, not the Chalamoid, the Yom Tov itself. What are these karbanos? Karbanos that you have to bring on Yom Tov. Elu chayvos, those are obligatory karbanos. Habois chayva beregel. As she says, for instance, Eilas Re'iyah, Chagiga, Musafen, which are meant for the Yom Tov itself, so you bring it on Yom Tov. But let's say you have a donated karban. That you don't bring on Yom Tov itself, it's Yom Tov. You bring it on Chalamoid. But make sure you bring it on Chalamoid. You're here already, make sure you bring everything. Don't wait until a later date and procrastinate. Levad, minidreichem, minidveiseichem, aside from the personal, vow donations and davos, item-based donations, all those karbanos, you bring when? On Chalamoid, Limeid, it teaches us al nadarim and davos. So those types, you have to wait until Chalamoid. Shekrev mechel shalmoid. Okay, so the pasuk covers chayvos, that's on Yom Tov, and Chalamoid. You have two families of karbanos, nadarim and davos, which pretty much covers all voluntary offerings. So why does the pasuk continue with more items? Uloy seichem. What's that all about? Which type of oila? Iboilas neder. Is it a neder where you vow to bring like Arik Var Amar? It's covered under the words nidreichem. Iboilas nidava. Is it that he pointed to an animal, he offered it as a karban? Again, that's covered under the Nadava family. Already said, Harik Var Amar v'nvei seichem. So what is it? Ha'enim Nadav must be speaking Elaboilas Yedledis, Boilas Mitzvah. A woman gave birth, she has to bring an oila. It's not Yom Tov related, so she can't bring it on Yom Tov itself, but she brings a Chalamayit. Or a Mitzvah in his oila. Next in the pasuk, a form of mincha. Again, what are we talking? A neder? That's covered by the neder category. Nedava, likewise. What's this added? Ibn minchas neder. It's already discussed before. Kvar Amar. Ibn minchas nedava is a nedava. Kvar Amar, it's covered under the nedava category. Other types of menachos, which again are not Yom Tov oriented, so you bring on a chalamoid, a saita. Some change it to chayte, mitzayra, minchas kanais, that's the saita. So these are brought on chalamoid. And then we have ula niskechem, ula shalmeichem. And this was the pasuk we had earlier, that the Torah is binding, is linking the nesachim to the actual mother carbon, to the shlamim. Makash nesachim shlamim. We're linking the nesachim to the shlamim. Ashlam b'yayim, af nesachim b'yayim. So we're speaking about nesachim that were present when you makar the carbon. It's one package, inseparable, and therefore it's bound to daytime, just like the shlamim itself. Okay. Now, what is the pasuk referring to? What type of shlam ulu shalmeichem? What is it talking about? Again, is it neder? That's covered already in the pasuk before. Nedava, covered. L'Rabbi Shalmi Nazir. There's one shlamim which is not technically a neder or nedava. That's the one that the Nazir brings at the end of his process. Although the actual commitment to being a Nazir is a neder. The more understanding now that, it's interesting. A question here: how do we classify the karbanos of a Nazir? A person commits to being a Nazir, fine. But at the end of the process, he's obligated to bring certain karbanos. Do we say that it was included in his original vow? So his original vow to becoming a Nazir refers and covers the karbanos at the end of the process as well, in which case technically they're classified as neder or nedava, or shall we say no? The Nazir vow pertains to the process of being a Nazir. What happens at the end of the process, that's something that the Torah obligates him to do. That's not technically something that he vowed. So it would seem from this brisa here that Shalmi Nazir, the shlamim of a Nazir, the karbanos that a Nazir brings at the end of his process, clearly it's not covered under the neder or nedava family, because that's already mentioned in the pasuk earlier. Rather, it's in a class of its own. Because his vow pertains to the Nazir process. The karbanos that come at the end, that kicks in by way of Torah obligation. That's a new type of obligation. Not considered technically part of his neder. And the word is going to take issue with that. Only Abaye. So Abaye challenged him. He says, no, karbanos of a Nazir? That's part of his initial vow. And that's already covered in this pasuk, in the neder nedava family. Rather, he should have referred to a different type of shlamim, which is not a neder or nedava. Amli Abaye, v'lei mamar shalmi pesach. Why don't you apply the word l'shalmechem in the pasuk to a different type of shlamim, which in fact is not a neder. Shalmi pesach. Rashi says that's the chagiga that you bring with the Karban Pesach. There isn't enough material in the Karban Pesach to accommodate all the members of the group. The Shalmi Nazir, because if it's talking about Shalmi Nazir, that is a classic neder nedava, neither v'nidavu, because that was included in his initial vow. That's not a standout carbon. That's a plain neder nedava. It's already covered in the beginning of the pasuk. The Asnanya or the Asnam have a brisa which clearly labels it as such. So the Mishnah talks about a different topic altogether. During the time in history when they had private altars, a bamas yachid, what can a person bring in that bama? There's a very specific system. You can only bring neder or nedava. You can't bring obligatory karbanis. What about the karbanis of a nazir? Interesting question. So if it's considered part of the initial vow, there you go, it's a neder or nedava. And in fact, the Mishnah considers it as such. That's not zaklal. Here's a rule: kosher nidar v'nidav, something which is nidava or neder, nidav v'nidar, karba amas yachid is eligible to be brought in a bamas yachid, but otherwise not. And the karbanis of a nazir, yes, are in. Clearly, they're labeled as neder or nedava. But otherwise, you can't bring it in a private bama. It's none. Tanya, you have a brisa which explains, which itemizes it. Hamalachis, vanazirus. There you go. Karbanis of a nazir are classified as personal vowed, personal donations. Craven, b'mamas yachid, divrei meir. Samim kanazirus. Says the Gemara, we'll have to delete the nazir from this last list over here, because in fact, no, the karbanos of a nazir are not considered neder and nedava. Rashi says, you know why? He pledged to keep away from what? From wine. That was it. The halei nader element ayayin, says Rashi, his neder pertained to abstaining from wine. The karbanos that get generated later, that's not his doing. A carbon me'elam mutalal of chayva. That's sort of applied to him later, separate from his neder. Okay, so if that's the case, then it coincides with what we said before, that in fact the Shalmi Nazir are not considered neder and nedava, and it makes sense that the pasuk makes a separate reference for them. Fine. Ask the Gemara, really? Is that so? That the karbanos of a Nazir are not classified as neder or nedava? Omar, is there anybody that holds the nazir lav nidar v'nidafu, that it's not classified as a neder? V'oksiv, have a pasuk by Avshalom who was a nazir, and he clearly refers to his karbanos as such. V'oksiv meketza bar mishana, at the end of 40 years. 40 years from what? We'll see later. Avshalom turned to the king, to David HaMelech, his father, and he says, Elchana, I'm going to have to take some time off and take care of my karbanos. And eventually he rebelled, and that caused the whole upheaval. I want to go pay up my debts, my nedarim, that I vowed in Chevron. Actually, he continues and he says, I made the neder when I was in a place called Geshur. So clearly he initiated the Nazirus in Geshur, and when he's talking about paying up the neder in Chevron, what he means to say is my love karban. What he means to say is I'm going to attend to my nedarim in Chevron. So he's clearly referring to the karbanes as vowed karbanes. Lo ya'ika nidroi. No, he's referring to the initiation of the Nazirus, which in fact is a vow, and that's what he's calling neder. Lo ya'ika nidroi amar. Ask the Gemara, but then it's the wrong location. Ikar nidroi b'Chevron hava. Why is he referring to Chevron as a place where he initiated the neder of Nazirus. He wasn't sure, as he says in the later part of the pasuk. Rav Chanan lo yalach Avshalom ela lahavi kvasim mechevron. He's not calling the karbanis, not labeling them neder. Neder refers to the initiation of this whole Nazirus process. All he meant to say is like this: I got to go to Chevron and bring some kvasim. Get over there we have some good sheep, good quality sheep. And I'm going to find some karbanis. I'm going to take a shave, a haircut, to complete fulfill the neder which I had undertaken in Geshur. But the karbanis that come at the end of the process, in fact, are not labeled neder. It makes sense that in fact this was his intention. The TEMURAH kruvi hudasel, because if we're going to learn the pasuk literally that the karbanis are the neder that he's going to bring, why is he doing it in Chevron? Why would he leave Yerushalayim, which was known as, there was no Beis HaMikdash, but it was known, that's where the Aron was, and it was known to be the place of Kedusha, of the eventual Beis HaMikdash. Why would he go bring the karbanis in Chevron? So then what are you suggesting? That he just went to supply himself with sheep from Chevron? So then why is he saying Bechevron? He should say Mechevron. Hay asher nadat Hashem Bechevron. Instead of saying it like that, Mechevron, they should have said, I'm going to get it from Chevron. You're right, Eloil Makruvi. Certainly he went to be Makriv his karbanos, which he's calling neder, in Chevron. And in fact, it seems that you're right, the karbanis of a nazar are called neder, unlike what we said before. And answer your question, why was he going to Hebron instead of Yerushalayim? Why would he abandon Yerushalayim and choose Hebron for the place of Akrava? Well, guess what? There's another question, an even stronger question. Givon. What about Givon, which was a place where the Mizbeach was, the Makam Kaddish was an established Makam Kaddish for Karbanis? Why would he forego that? The answer is, since the private altars were acceptable at that time in history, so he decided to go to, he was anyways traveling to Hebron to supply himself with high quality sheep. So he chose to be makrav there as well. Makrav, so he can bring it wherever he wants. Okay, so it appears that the Gemara is sort of reverting. Initially, we had a kasha. We tried to answer it, but we're back to the kasha. We pretty much see from here that in fact the pasuk is referring to the karbanis of a nazir as a neder. Now, one more point. What's the 40 years about? Arbaim shana laman. So at the end of 40 years regarding which count? Tanya Rabbi Nerai Aimer Mishum Yeshua Miketz Abraham Shana. It was at the end of 40 years. Sheshala Melech. 40 years since they requested a king. They approached Shmuel. They said, we want to have a king like all the other nations, which was a no-no, because they should have, just gone with the system that Hashem established without asking for a king. And in fact, it turned around to haunt him. 40 years later, look what happened. He rebelled and created upheaval. Isanya, how do we know that it was 40 years later? Ois Shana Shalom Melech, the year that they asked for a king. Ois Shana Siris Shel Shmuel Hoisa. It was year 10 of Shmuel's reign. Eser Shana Malach Shmuel Ba'atzmai. In fact, Shmuel reigned for 10 years. He was the sole leader for 10 years. And then, once he appointed Shaul as the king, upon Hashem's instruction, accommodating the request of the nation, Shana Achas Shemalach Shaul Shmuel. So one year they joined together. They reigned together. Ushtayim Shemalach Shaul Ba'atzma. Then 2 years Shaul on his own. Ushloishim Sheva, some change it to Shleishim Sheish, Rashi's Gersa, Shemalach David. That David reigned as a king. So if we add 36 to 2 to 1, it's 39. Plus, if we count that year 10, the year that actually they asked for the Melech, which was year 10 of Shmuel, so that's another year, so you have a total of 40 years. And now, the trouble began with Absalom's rebellion, which was sort of an outcome, an einish, for the very fact that they had desired and requested a Melech. Okay, in a nutshell, we have a Mishnah which compares Karban Yachid to Karban Tzibur on 3 accounts. Karban Yachid generates TEMURAH, as opposed to Tzibur. Karban Yachid is Zachar and Nekeva, in some instances, as opposed to Karban Tzibur. And Karban Yachid, Yochai B'Achrais, even though the day is over. Karban Tzibur has an advantage, that it's Zeicha Shabbos V'Tumah, and according to the Meir, it isn't necessarily dependent on Tzibur and Yachid, rather it depends on whether it's time related or not. An interesting insight, there's a distinction between Nesachim that are packaged with the carbon, that they brought alongside the carbon only during Yom, as opposed to carbon Nesachim, which was brought separately. They can be brought even at a later time, even during nighttime, as we discussed. Then we had an interesting discussion regarding the status of the carbonis of the Nazir, whether it's considered a separate neder, or whether it's really included in the initial, whether it's considered a separate chiyuv Torah, or whether it really was included and covered by the initial neder that was introduced by the Nazir when he undertook to being a Nazir. All the best to you, and Hatzlacha Rav.